that the sideboard was raised, and you couldn't quite tell us how much it was raised until you got inside. Show us about how much it was raised and where.
Okay, on the original boat, the shear was approximately about in this area right here. And she was a sandbagger, what they used to call a sandbagger yacht. And when Mr. Wood bought the boat, he wanted to keep it more or less convert it to a cruiser. So he had Tony Jack Kovacevic add 3 strakes of planking to her to increase her freeboard. So when she would heel, wouldn't take on quite so much water. And the job was done so well that I would have staked my reputation on this assessment that this boat had never been touched before. It was original. And when I got inside, I discovered the original framing had come to around in this area right here. And I was totally amazed at the results. But it had actually been added to. But it was a very professional job. Okay. The bow of the boat, over 110 years of boat repair and handiwork, have become almost unattached. So I have maintained this line to the perfection of the original design and build, and I reconstructed all of this, the stem and the forefoot and the cutwater is all out of original material as the boat was actually built of. And all this has been put back exactly like the day that this boat was launched, and it carries on from about this area right in here forward. And I also added 2 whales of planking that run in the midship section of the boat, right in the turn of the bilge, to give her stability. When we put the stand under, she won't cave in. To give her rigidity. Before she was just about to fall to pieces. This piece right here was basically one of the main focal points of the whole bow. This was cast in Biloxi, specially made for this boat and this bow. All of these lines that you see here had to coincide with this one casting, which was a heck of a job, but I waited a whole year to be able to put this piece in, and thank God that it fit. So there, that's lies. And that's
not an original piece.
Oh, that's the original piece, yes. Oh, this is a cast for the boat originally.
Okay. What was it you were waiting on?
To put it in.
Okay.
To see if all this work and carving I had done fit this. You see, that's the thing. After carving all this back into shape, this original piece had to be fitted and carved and notched. This piece goes back that far. It's a main, it holds the whole rigging up. I mean, this goes to the sprit and then to the top of the mast. If you lose this, everything goes. So this is a very critical part of the boat. But no, this was original. And like I said, when I put it back in there, to drill it, to bore it, to fit it, it couldn't be off. It had to be right on the money. And thank God I lucked out and it fit.
I understand it had to be totally replaced and
Right.
rebuilt.
All right. The skeg area here had deteriorated to the point that it was just crumbling, basically charcoal from the degradation of the bolts, iron bolts into the wood. So I had to replace it, and it's the same exact size. Everything is perfectly matched just like it was, and I used the original material. This wood right here is as old, it's 110 years old, pine, and I used that to put back into place. And this piece of oak is a very old piece of oak that I used to put as a stern post and cut the groove for the rudder to fit and all that. But all this is put back exactly like it was when the boat was original. And one of the wonderful things about these old boats is the beautiful metal work that's been done on this thing. This is all riveted. There's no welding done on any of this stuff. It's all machined and hammered on an anvil and riveted together. All the supports and bronze work in this area is absolutely a piece of art.
Right in here, the water, the food and tightened it up. That's the original boat.
What's happened here, Jim, is this boat, these bolts go all the way to here. They're all the way through these planks. And what's happened is over the years, this boat has been out of the water These planks have dried up and opened these seams. But if you put her back overboard, they'd swell shut again, believe it or not. They'd make up. But that's what gives this long piece of lumber, this stacked lumber, its rigidity, is the bolts that actually hold these things together. I wouldn't be surprised if these bolts, and I believe they are actually tapped and threaded into this rod. I mean, that's the kind of work they did. Nothing was second rate, it was all first class. So this bolt, you can see it right here. It comes all the way through here, it's bolted, and then there's a tap, and actually threaded into this shaft, the rudder post, the rudder tube to hold all this stuff together. That's why she's still here. She was well built.
Ben, what we're doing with it. It looks like beautiful wood now, but that's not the way it was, really.
I don't really know how exactly it was, but I don't believe she had the cabin on that she has now.
Oh, really?
Now don't listen. I don't want this thing to be original. And what I've surmised, that this was a sandbagger. It had an open cockpit with a centerboard in it. There was no cabin on the original hull. Now, I might be wrong, but I would guess that's what it was. And then when Mr. Woods bought the boat, he wanted to use it more of a recreational type situation rather than a race boat. This was the racing yacht of her day back in the 1890s. Naval architectural-wise, construction-wise, she was the finest they built. I mean, steam bent frames, light planking, huge displacement as far as centerboard and ballast concerned with a gigantic rig. This thing flew when it was overboard. I mean, it was nothing but fast. So, but of course it couldn't been, you couldn't take it out to sleep overnight on it because there was no cabin. So I believe Fatty Jack Kovacevic put the cabin and combing and all that stuff on there.
Have you got any idea how many knots that boat would have gone?
I imagine you could go as fast as just about as the wind was traveling. This thing would, well, you see, you got wave condition, you got current condition, you know, and if you're surfing, you know, this thing would get up on a sea and surf. So how fast can you surf it?
12, 15.
Right, yeah, there's no telling how fast this little thing could scoot. She could have got airborne, you know. I know with all that lateral resistance down under here, shit, there's no telling what this thing can do. I'd love to build a replica of this baby.
I know that the speed of the boat is directly related to the length of the boat.
In some instances.
If under normal circumstances.
Well, you take a 12-foot hydroplane that runs 200 miles an hour.
Well, but I mean on sailboat.
Well, that's like I said, it depends upon the amount of displacement versus the amount of overhang that you've got and the condition of the sea.
Yeah.
When you lose support under a model hull like this, it starts to it's not cavitation, but what it does, it loses its support because it's going so fast over the water, there's nothing holding it up anymore. On a flat plane, you've got the water pressure. But on this, you've got more weight than water pressure, so it starts either wallowing or does all types of funny things. You need to talk to a naval architect about all those high-powered terms they use, because they got words for all of that stuff. But this thing, there's no telling what she was. About 10 knots, I guess, 10, 11.
That's what I would guess.
Then that's really doing a good deal.
Yeah.
It's not going to plane, I don't think.
Unless you're going downwind, surfing.
Yeah,
With
if you had
a
you had the white sail condition, everything like that. There's no telling what this little jewel could do. Get on the side and go. How fast can a log travel through the water?
Right.
I wouldn't make a claim in just how fast she would go. I just, it's just been a real joy working on it, I'll tell you that much.
Maybe you said you want to build a replica, maybe a small one?
Right, no, the same size.
Okay.
I would love to build one just like this, exactly. So the museum can take the sea and sail, they got a little sailing class in school they have, take the kids out on it. You know, it's a lot more kid-friendly than one of those schooners, because you can get right down on the water with this thing. You know, you're right there on the water, and you know, it just feels more comfortable instead of being on a boat with a high freeboard and stuff like that. I think this would go over great. You might lose 1 or 2 a season, but what the hell? Just tie them off to the boat, make them wear life preservers. But no, I'd love to build one just like her. I mean, I've studied this thing for the time it's taken me to rebuild her, and there's nothing as far as building a new one. I mean, it's like falling off a log. I can still get the materials. But it's got a little more to go. We've got a lot of jewelry to put on it to really make it look nice, and another week or so she's really going to be beautiful. All the finishing touches will be put on. This is like more like looking at a sheetrock wall with nothing on it. You know, when I finish all this bronze and copper hardware, it's really going to make her shine.
And have you decided to put any of the canvas back on?
I'm not really sure what they're going to do on that, Jim. They're trying to get the rigging stood before the day they open the museum. We'll just have to wait and see if we make everything come together as fast as we're trying to. It's just we can only do so much. I'm gonna fashion a really beautiful cradle to present the boat in. That's my main focus. After getting these guys, they know what they're doing. Just more or less getting them where we're all working together and flowing and moving in the right direction. I'm gonna crank up on the cradle. I'm gonna it's gonna look like a little model sitting there when I got a really nice cradle design to put under it. It's gonna be pine, seasoned pine. It's not gonna be the old antique pine, but it's gonna be some beautiful stock. It's the best I could do at shorthand notice. I mean, I've got to glue it to laminate it up because you'll have to see it. I'm not giving you any more info on the cradle. But it's going to be pretty. It's going to present the boat in the light it should be presented.
Will that be ready for the opening?
I'm telling you it will be.
Okay.
It'll be ready or I'll be hanging from one of them limbs out of them oak trees.
We'll be seeing it then.
No, I'm going to get on it. Yes, it's going to be ready.
Well, David, we appreciate it.